And welcome. My name is Erika and I am here at humble Redwood State Park. And you may be asking yourself that I'm not in my typical place. I'm actually here at the Campfire Center right outside of Burlington Campground. And thanks to interpreter Shanna and myself, we have made this really awesome fire, and it is because we're actually going to be talking about this very thing in this video, and it is principle number 5, which is minimizing fire impacts. So this is super important now, especially more than ever, that we are aware of how we interact, how prepared we are, and when not to do fires. Campfires are not only a super awesome skill that, in some ways can be the deciding factor of life or death, or just in more simpler terms, they're just like an awesome way that you can just hang out with friends and family around a campfire. So it's awesome to know how to do these, but it's even more important to know when and how we can minimize our impacts with fire. So before I actually start talking about fire, we should know and talk about something that we can all use so that we don't have to necessarily build a fire, especially when we camp out, is the use of a portable stove. These little babies are so useful, they're reliable, they're efficient, they're most importantly, leave no trace. Yes, that's right. If you use a portable stove, there really is no need for you to build a fire for food. It's really just for you, to roast those s'mores, to congregate around a fire and to have fun and enjoy it. We don't really necessarily need it to survive or to make food anymore. So one of the best ways to leave no trace and to have a least impact with fire is just to not make any to start with. So if you actually have a portable stove, this is a great way that you can go camping, especially in places that may not have places for you to do fire, or just there are no fires allowed at the moment. It's a really great way that you can still enjoy going camping and grilling some awesome food, but not having to make a fire. So the other thing, you can tell that at any state park, there are just beautiful trees everywhere. Yes, I'm going to try to pan into some of the awesomeness of our trees here. There's not too many because I'm right at the visitor center. But pretty much in any state park, you're going to have all these beautiful trees that are around you. And, for some people, it may be awesome, there's firewood everywhere, right? Wrong. That's actually super illegal, and you cannot pick or, go scavenging for any sorts of wood, let alone damaging trees, cutting trees to get wood. So please, that is not allowed. Most preserves or just parks, national or state parks, are actually a refuge, an ecological jewel that we need to keep intact. And so for that matter, you're not allowed to go looking or picking up rocks or literally moving things out of their place, because things have a place, and if you let them be in their place, they will follow that cycle that they need to follow. But if you take them out, or you disrupt these sorts of life cycles, then it can have a really big consequence. So please leave things alone, leave our trees alone. We have lots of little critters and animals that rely on them. So I'm actually going to tend to my fire in a minute. You guys can see me, I'm actually in the middle of I have a bucket here to my next thing, which is making sure that you have a bucket full of water. And here we actually have this fire stick that Shanna's son, who's a welder and a blacksmith, has actually made this. So it's really cool, and I'm actually using that to keep our fire kind of in place since it just started going to a different place. So always tend your fire. That's a very important thing to do. So back to firewood. That is not allowed at our parks. Here, maybe I'll just stay by the fire. It seems like it's cool. You're not allowed to look for firewood. So you may be asking, Erika, how do I get firewood when I'm gonna go camping and fires that are allowed where I'm going camping? Well, most kiosks or campgrounds usually sell firewood. And so I'm going to show you a bundle here. We sell these at the park. You can, like I said, you can find them at all the kiosks with camp hosts. And if you're in an environmental campground, just go to either Burlington or Hidden Springs kiosk and you can buy them there. They're like $7 or $8. So there's that. You can also, you know, if you want to get it from a nearby place, make sure that you're locally sourcing your wood. This is super important, especially when we are trying to like stop the transmission of diseases, especially when it comes to plant diseases. Some of you have heard of the sudden oak death. It's super bad, and unfortunately it's putting a lot of our forests and campgrounds with a huge risk. So this is why we tell people not to bring firewood from their home or from other places that aren't from the place that you're gonna do a campfire. So yes, buy it, get it nearby, but do not get it from home. Alrighty, so why do you need wood? Well, you want to build an awesome campfire, so we definitely need to have these sorts of things before we build a campfire. But before we do, we have to assess some really important questions before we actually go ahead and just start building our fire. One of the most important things to consider is when and where you actually do this fire. California right now, most of California is a red flag alert. That means you cannot build a fire for no reason. Even in some places where there's campgrounds and campfires, you can't do that, or campfire rings, you can't do that right now. So please know where and when you're gonna go and do this fire at, what time of the year it is, and the selection and the place where you have selected. And most importantly, know the kinds of restrictions that are in place and the agencies that manage that area, so if there are any sorts of alerts that you're in the know, not only before you go, but also during your trip. So let's talk a little bit about fire since we're here now. So you see this really awesome fire ring. I'm gonna pan a little bit in. So this is a fire ring that is here at the Campfire Center. It's super big. It's a little bit bigger than most campfire rings that you find at the campgrounds, you know, because obviously when we do campfire programs, it's for a lot of people at a time. So we have this really awesome fire ring here. And so what I was talking about, how most of our campsites have an existing fire ring. This is the place if you are allowed during existing fire rings are literally the best, most ideal place that you can do this. Mainly because they're an adequate and already designated area for a fire. So it's very likely that the campsite has been designed so that when you have fire, there's not that much repercussions that are going to come from that. So, but there's also other things that you need to keep in mind when you're going to build a fire. And those are, I'm going to actually list them up for you. So these are some campfire safety and cleanup tips that you should know when you're going to build a fire. So the first thing is, if you're going to have children around, or just like, you know, younger individuals or people that may just need a little supervision, because sometimes it's not just children. So make sure that they are being supervised when they're not only like cooking in the stove, but actually like playing around the fire or just hanging around the fire. Never lead a fire unattended. I'm kind of like looking back and forth, and you know, you saw me going back there and like, you know, making sure that, you know, the fire is doing okay. This is really important. You want to make sure that your fire is never unattended, because you never know what could happen. Another thing is you must use appropriate container fuels. So, you know, if you're going to carry fuel with you or whatever may have you, make sure that you have the appropriate container for this. Never leave your fire unattended. I've already said that. I'm going to pan a little bit down so you guys can see. Do you guys see that I've created a defensible space around my fire ring? And it's actually around like, it's said that you should do around 3 feet of defensible space around your fire ring. There's also so many other things when in terms of defensible space, like for your house and all that. Definitely check out Cal Fire and other sorts of resources if you want to know more about that. But yeah, basically there's stuff all over, and this is literally ideal fuel for fires to spread. So I actually got like a little rake and a broom and just like moved out and accidentally missed the stick. Look at that, I missed the stick. Whoops. So yeah, just make sure that you have a really clear area, that there is no sort of dry material that can catch on fire, or just other pieces of wood that you may have around. The other thing that you also noticed that I had is this bucket full of water. So have a bucket of, also depends on how big your fire is, but make sure you have a large bucket, mostly at least 3/4 full with water. And this awesome stick that you saw here is like a fire tending stick. We were super lucky that I mentioned before, Shanna, which is one of our interpreters, her son actually made this. He's a blacksmith, and he makes a lot of cool stuff, and so he actually made this for us, I believe, last year. So yeah, if you have any sort of, something that isn't flammable, like something that's like metal, like a cool metal rod, or just like if you end up going someplace, get yourself some sort of fire tending tool, because you never know when, you might need to just fix a few logs or whatever. So have this, and as you see, I actually have it in the bucket of water. So that way, if the stick gets too hot, it won't like burn something while you're trying not to burn things. So yeah, that's honestly a really good thing to have. So peep out the setup, make sure that you do this. Another thing is when you're burning, make sure that you're only burning wood. Don't burn any sort of plastic or things that have a covering of like that have like foil or like aluminum or any sort of, like sort of covers, or when things just like, yeah, just make sure that I don't even know where I'm going with that. Just make sure that you're not burning things that could be toxic for people and just for the environment. And last but not least is make sure that you extinguish all your fires. I actually would want to like extinguish the fire just to like make a dramatic effect, but I do have my Spanish one that I do after this, so I'm actually gonna keep the fire. But yeah, make sure that all wood is burned to like a white ash. Also have like, have some water ready to like dump out, and like, put your hand over the fire, and if it still feels like it's hot, maybe, make sure to like add like some more water, like a little bit of dirt, but make sure that that fire is completely out before you leave the area, whether it be for the day or just like if you're done camping. Just make sure that that is like that has been accounted for, and that there is no way that your fire that you've made could cause any sort of damage or a wildfire. Yeah, so I really hope that you guys liked this video. You enjoyed our little virtual campfire during this program. And I think just like how I would like to end is not how I thought I was gonna end, but with the existing conditions that we have, not only climatic, but political, there's just so much that is going on, and these detrimental fires are affecting a lot of people. And so it's really important that you guys consider these safety tips, and then just look out for more tips on just like what fires are in your area. Make sure you check out fire.california.gov to find out of these fires and where they're happening. Also, if you're interested in going camping, or just to see what state parks or what parks are being closed or partially closed because of the wildfires, make sure that you go to parks.california.gov. There's recent information updating, so please make sure you check that out. And just for your own safety, just keep alerts of PG&E, know when like shutoffs are going to happen in your area, because that's when you might get a first signal that, hey, if they're going to shut off power is because they don't want like power lines to fall and cause fires. Like I said, some of these causes of fires haven't actually been from campfires. A lot of them are actually from, power lines that are get knocked down during windy storms, sometimes from chains dragging when people like pull things. If you park in a place that's arid and has a lot of dry grass. So there's so many other things that can start a fire, but obviously I have to, you know, adapt it to how it would be in our park. But just so you are aware, there's so many other resources, and I'll make sure to put those in the comments section at the end of my Spanish video, because I still have that one to do. All right, well, thank you so much for being with me today, and I hope that you had a great time and learned some awesome tips that could eventually, you know, could be life or death. You never know. So stay prepared, stay healthy, and stay safe. I'll see you next week for principle number 6.